The desert highway shimmered. Marco, the club president, a man built of hard muscle and harder choices, felt a profound coldness. Deep in his chest, a sudden unnatural dread that stole the usual roar of his custom motorcycle. The wind whipped his black vest against his tattooed arms, but it offered no comfort. He checked his watch, a massive steel chronometer, 3 hours past the time. Luna, his only child, his fierce and independent daughter, was supposed to be home from her college study group. 3 hours in the unforgiving, arid expanse of their territory felt like 3 centuries. Luna was meticulous, dependable. She never missed curfew. She always texted her location. A ritual born of respect, not fear. Marco knew every detail of her routines, every friend, every passing acquaintance, and this silence, this yawning black gap in their usual communication, was a violent rupture. He gripped the handlebars tighter, his knuckles white against the dark leather. He turned the massive machine around, kicking up dust in a sharp metallic spray, heading back toward the compound, the Iron Viper's clubhouse, a fortress of corrugated steel and shadow. He found the note almost immediately upon entering her small tidy bedroom, a room that always smelled faintly of jasmine and old books. The paper was cheap, almost greasy, stuck to the mahogany dresser mirror by a piece of brightly colored chewing gum, an unsettling detail of childish malice. The script was a hurried, illiterate scrawl. I have her contact. My main man Rico, or she disappears forever. Marco recognized the name instantly. Rico, a pathetic aspiring gangster, a small-time pusher of cheap pills and powders who occasionally tried to operate on the fringes of their town, a territory the Vipers had long ago claimed and defended with brutal efficiency. Marco himself had warned Rico off twice, first with a verbal threat, second with a clear demonstration of Viper strength, a message Rico apparently failed to comprehend or respect. The anger started low, a tremor in his powerful hands, then exploded into a silent, searing wave of pure destructive rage. He crushed the note in his fist, feeling the cheap paper tear against his skin. He looked at the room, the quiet evidence of his daughter's life, her laughter, her dreams, now all held hostage by a desperate fool. The silence of the empty room was deafening, louder than any engine, any shotgun blast. Marco strode from the room, his boots thudding against the polished wood floor, sounding like a drum of war. He walked straight to the main common area of the clubhouse, where the Vipers congregated. The men, sensing the immediate change in their leader's demeanor, fell silent. The typical rowdiness extinguished by the cold fury radiating from Marco, his second in command, a massive, quiet man named Beast, met Marco's eye, immediately recognizing the look of absolute, primal desperation that only a father could possess. Marco tossed the crumpled note onto the scarred wooden table. It landed with a soft, pathetic sound. Beast read it in a single, terrifying glance, his face hardening into granite. The other Vipers gathered around, their faces a mask of shared understanding, a silent vow of loyalty and vengeance. The code of the club was simple: family first, always. Anyone who harmed a Viper's kin ceased to exist by the dawn. Marco spoke only 3 words, his voice low, rough, a predator's growl: get Rico's coordinates now. The Vipers moved immediately like a well-oiled military unit. The motorcycles outside started one by one, not the usual thunder, but a focused, calculated rumble. The air in the clubhouse became thick with the smell of gasoline-worn leather and the chilling anticipation of violence. The sun had set, leaving the world in a deep indigo blue, and the Vipers rode out a dark, unstoppable tide, a silent promise of relentless retribution for the dealer who dared to take the daughter of their president, who dared to violate the sanctity of their family, who sealed his own fate with that single, careless, arrogant fingerprint on a stolen piece of paper. The silent hunt began, the Iron Vipers melting into the midnight landscape, not as the roaring gang the world knew, but as phantoms. Marco insisted on minimal engine noise, a tactical move to maintain the element of surprise. They were shadows on the black asphalt, their chrome darkened by the night, and their intent. Marco rode point, his mind a laser focus on the singular objective. Luna's safety. Nothing else mattered, not the club, not the territory, not even the inevitable war this action would ignite. Beast meanwhile worked the digital side, a skill set few outside the Vipers knew he possessed. He cracked Rico's burner phone, a cheap disposable device that the dealer had foolishly used for basic communication. Beast found an address, a rough GRID location near the derelict industrial docks known locally as the Rust Belt. The warehouse complex was a sprawling maze of abandoned factories and decaying piers, a perfect place to hide someone and a deadly place to stage an ambush. As the Vipers neared the docks, Beast intercepted an encrypted radio chatter, a low-frequency signal, Rico's voice barely audible detailing his plan. The dealer expected Marco to arrive alone, desperate for a trade. Rico was waiting with 2 hired guns, local thugs, with more ambition than sense, and a plan to incapacitate Marco, seize the club's assets, and sell Luna to the highest bidder once his ransom demands were met. The plot was clumsy, brutal, and utterly predictable to a veteran like Marco, a textbook trap designed for desperation. Marco smiled, a thin, chilling expression that did not reach his cold eyes. He signaled to his riders, slowing his powerful machine to a near crawl. He knew the Rust Belt intimately, an old club stomping ground from decades past. He remembered the layout, the hidden access tunnels, the blind spots in the security perimeter. A direct assault was Rico's expectation, a flank maneuver was Marco's specialty. He divided his force into 3 teams. Team Alpha, led by Beast, would secure the rear egress, cutting off any escape. Team Beta would create a diversion on the main road, drawing the attention of the hired guns. Marco himself, leading Team Gamma, would use a forgotten underground sewer access point, a dark claustrophobic passage known only to a few old-timers, and enter the warehouse from directly beneath Rico's position. The move was risky, highly dangerous, involving close quarter combat in pitch-black darkness, but it offered the best chance for a clean fast. Rescued. The bikes went completely silent, parked in the deep cover of a ruined rail yard. The Vipers dismounted, moving on foot, each man a silent, disciplined soldier, carrying a length of steel, a promise of swift retribution. The air was thick with the smell of brine, stale water, and metallic dust. They were hunters now, silent, lethal, precise. Marco felt the cool dampness of the sewer entrance against his hand, a dark gaping maw, leading toward his daughter and his vengeance. He knew this was the point of no return. The trap was set, but Marco was not the prey, he was the executioner. Marco slid through the sewer grate, the heavy steel closing silently behind him. A final metallic clang swallowed by the damp earth. He was alone in the darkness, save for the dim beam of his tactical light revealing the slick stone walls and the trickle of foul water. He moved swiftly, expertly navigating the narrow passage, the sound of his boots muffled by the mud and silt. He knew exactly where he was, beneath the main concrete floor of the abandoned warehouse where Rico had made his lair. Above him, the carefully orchestrated distraction began. Team Beta's engines roared to life on the main road, followed by the sharp crack of controlled gunfire designed only to confuse and draw attention. The hired guns immediately rushed toward the front door, predictable pawns in Rico's pathetic game. This gave Marco his window, a crucial few seconds of distraction. He reached the end of the tunnel, the ceiling above marked with a faint circle of light from a loose inspection plate. He pressed his shoulder against the obstruction, lifting the heavy cover with a grunt of effort. The gap was just wide enough. Marco pulled himself up, emerging silently into the vast cavernous warehouse. The air here was stale, metallic, smelling of old industry and fear. He saw Rico instantly, the dealer standing over Luna, who was tied to a broken steel chair, her eyes wide with terror but her mouth firmly gagged. Rico held a rusty pipe, his face a mask of sweating, panicked aggression. He was shouting into a dead comes peace, frustrated that his anticipated ambush of Marco was failing. Marco moved from the shadows, a silent apparition. Rico did not notice him until he was mere feet away, a terrifying figure of cold, unwavering focus. Rico spun around, startled, dropping the pipe with a clang. Marco did not speak, he did not pause, he did not give a warning. He moved with the sudden, devastating speed of a striking snake, his large hand grabbing Rico's wrist, twisting the bone with sickening ease. The dealer screamed, a high, pathetic sound that echoed in the empty space, but Marco's grip only tightened. He ripped the gag from Luna's mouth. She gasped, a single tear rolling down her cheek, but her eyes met her father's, a silent signal of trust and relief. Before Rico could register his mistake, the floorboards exploded around the perimeter. Beast and Team Alpha burst in through the back doors, blocking any chance of escape. The 2 hired guns, realizing the diversion was a distraction and that they were surrounded, threw down their weapons, their courage evaporating. Instantly Marco looked from Luna, safe and secure in the arms of Beast, to Rico, now sobbing. His pathetic scheme shattered. The Iron Vipers formed a tight, menacing semicircle, their faces hard, emotionless judges. The reckoning was swift and silent. Marco gave a barely perceptible nod, a final verdict, carried out not with a bullet but with a cold, brutal finality that only the club understood and enforced. Luna was untied, lead outside into the cool desert air. A Witten's